How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Titus, and I really appreciate y'all joining me again for another video. Today, we're going to talk about 5, that's right, count them, 5 big mistakes that you could make in the early game that could really hurt your account. And how do I know these are big mistakes? Because I've made every single one of them, and some of them are definitely more harmful than others. So we're going to go in a descending order with what I think is the least harmful to the most harmful. So let's get into it. All right, so number one, what we got is pulling shards. Now, pulling shards doesn't actually hurt your account. It's when you pull them. So as you can see here, I'm back on the free to play. I've got a bunch of shards slowly building up, right? I've got 35 ancients, 3 voids, and 1 sacred, right? So I could do this progressive chance, but I've already done a video talking about the percentages. My chance of pulling a legendary right now are the same as they always are, right? 0.5%, and the mercy doesn't start until 200. So I'm nowhere close on my shards to even maybe dipping my toe into mercy. Same thing with void, same thing with sacreds, right? So while it doesn't really set your account back super far, because shards come and go, and especially if you're in a position where, say, you're beginning to farm brutal or nightmare, or maybe even 4 king ultra nightmare, the shards will come back, right? Doing events and stuff like that. If my game will load. All right, and we're back. I guess it's on me for choosing to record this video right when the day resets and all the dailies come back and all that stuff. So that's on me. But as you can see, through daily login rewards, we're getting shards. Go ahead and pick that up. As you can see, through tournaments and whatnot, which on the free to play, I've been trying to dip into just a little bit to get these shards, especially ancients. They'll come and go. You're never going to run out of them and have no way possible of getting them, right? But building up a huge stockpile of them and then pulling during, say, a 2x event, double legendary event, guaranteed champion events, which I know have gotten fewer and fewer farther between, but those are the times you want to pull your shards. Because while it may seem like you're losing access to champions and progression that pulling new champions can give you, the reality is a lot of the progression you can make early on is already kind of set ahead for you with, the promo code champions you get, the chase legendaries that, are usually around every month or every other month, your starter being a really good candidate for being your first 6-star, not to mention some champions that you can farm in campaign and stuff like that. You don't need to pull shards to start your progression out correctly. And I would strongly urge that, especially in the first maybe 6 months of your account, you don't even pull shards unless you've got a 2x event, or like I said, a double legendary event, and you're close to mercy. All right, number 4. This is one that I think can actually set your account back pretty far, and that is buying your champions masteries. As you can see here, we've already got them for Kayle, and we did buy them for Kayle. So what do I mean is, moving forward, buying champion masteries, right? If I were to say buy this right now, I hit get all scrolls, it's 800 gems. Now, with 800 gems, you could instead buy 20 energy refills, which would give you 2,600 energy. Now, what we know is, I'll put a chart up on the table, but on average, it might take you about 20 or about 2,000 energy to get your masteries doing Minotaur's Lair. Now, this is, of course, also assuming that you can clear stage 15 of Minotaur's Lair. But as you can see here, early on, I've already got stage 13 done, and I could probably get stage 14 and 15 done no problem with maybe one more 60. So it is almost always more efficient unless you are super unlucky. If you're super unlucky, it actually would cost you more in gems to buy the energy to do Minotaur's Lair than it would take to just buy the masteries outright. However, that's a pretty niche case. As you can see on the chart, there's over a 300 difference in gems from the median average of how many runs and energy for those runs roughly equated to the gems that they're worth versus buying the masteries. So on average, it's always better to use the gems. If you really need the masteries on a champion, it is pretty much on average always better to just run Minotaur's Lair. Because over time, constantly buying the masteries for your champion, you're losing out on tons of gems, and those tons of gems could be spent getting you energy, which is the lifeblood of your account. All right, number 3. This one is a little bit harder to explain, but essentially it's the idea of speed versus success. Now, what do I mean by that? As you can see here in some of these Ice Golem runs, if you look, Ice Golem 9, 38 seconds, Ice Golem 8, 44. And then I started to struggle a little bit as I got further down. Now, right now, I could get through stage 12. However, stage 12 for me is not 100% success rate unless I manual it. And even then, sometimes I just get unlucky with the way the damage lines up and I take 2 slams from the Ice Golem in a row and that's lights out, especially if my Vergus doesn't have his ally protection running. So when you're free to play, and I think in general, but I guess if you're a Mega Whale Kraken and you're totally cool with dropping tons of money into energy and you can afford to fail some runs, then perhaps it's more worthwhile for you to make those runs faster. But I would say for every single free-to-play player, and even low spenders, even if it takes you 5 or 6 minutes to do a run, that is much better if it's 100% success rate versus doing it faster, but having a higher percentage of rate to fail, because every time you fail, that energy is essentially wasted. And so if you take, say, doing, stage 25, because you're really trying to get the best gear that you can outside of hard, that's going to cost you 20 energy. Every time you fail a run, you're losing 20 energy. And I mean, forbid you are also doing super raids, then you're losing 40 energy a run. So you might have a team that can clear Ice Golem in a minute and a half, but if its success rate is only 80%, let's say, that means for every 100 energy you're spending, you're losing 20 of it. And if you're, say, running Ice Golem for days and using all of your energy, that could mean that you're wasting hundreds of energy failing in a dungeon rather than tuning the team to be a bit slower, but having a 100% success rate, which means none of your energy is getting wasted, which in my mind, you should always aim for efficiency before speed. Once you hit the efficiency, if you can tune the speed up to meet that efficiency level, then that's fine. But again, always prioritize getting the runs done over getting the runs done quickly. All right, number 2. This one is a hard one, but one of the biggest things that's going to hurt your progression is wasted energy. And so the number 1 rule is never, ever, ever let yourself cap out on energy. Now, I do understand that might be easier said than done, because if we're being gracious, let's say you're a phone player only, and if that's your only option, then that's your only option. And I understand that, that is unfortunately the way it is, but your energy regenerates at 1 energy every 3 minutes. This means that you're getting 20 an hour. If, you say, have to do this thing that unfortunately all humans have to do, where we just kind of go unconscious for 6 to 8 hours a day. Well, even if you drain your energy at the end of the night, right before you go to bed, and you wake up and you immediately begin using your energy again, what'll end up happening is in the first 6 hours, you will slowly reach that cap. I think it's by the 6.5 hour mark. Yeah, 6.5 hour mark. If you have 130 energy, that is when you're going to cap. And that means by the time you wake up and it's been, let's say, 8 hours, you're still at 130 energy, but your potential was 160, which means 30 energy burnt, gone into the ether. It's never coming back, right? And so if we grab this calculator real quick, and kind of pull this onto the screen, it's making me look a little dumb right now. There we go. So if we just say that 30 energy every day is being wasted, and this is if you were playing as efficiently as possible, in a week, you'll have lost 210 energy. And by the end of the month, you've lost about 840. Now, 970, if you are not doing the 3 wins in live arena, but you are doing all of your dailies, like say your daily quests, your advanced quests, all that stuff, your login reward, you're using all that energy, you're getting about 970 a day. That means every day that you let your energy cap while you're asleep, you are essentially at the end of the month, you've wasted a day, a full day of progression. Now, to combat this, I would suggest if you have a computer available to you, there are tons of programs. 2 of the most popular, I'll probably end up making a showcase here at some point, that will allow you to not cap your energy. And realistically, you can set these programs up to run super efficiently, to only run for a couple hours. So let's say you wake up and you want to have a full energy bar ready for you to go. You could have the program run for 2 or 3 hours and then shut off. That way it's not overcapping energy. And when you wake up, you have an energy pool to work with. But like I said, every month you're wasting a day. By the end of the year, that's like a week and a half. And that's assuming that you go to bed with an empty energy bar, and then you wake up and the first thing you do is play Raid, which to me sounds mind-numbing, and I imagine that most people that's not even accurate to real life. And so, reasonably speaking, wasting 30 energy a day, and like that's on the low end, right? You could be wasting 60, 70, 80, hundreds of energy every day, which means that figure for, how much energy you're wasting a week and a month, that could be double, triple, quadruple for you. So I think if you have access to a computer and you can set it up, especially if you are free to play and you have no other metrics for regaining lost time. I mean, if you're a spender, you just spend money for energy. You just spend when you want to make the progression. But if you're free to play, you're not doing that. And so you have to worry about being as efficient as possible. So downloading a program, getting it on your computer will definitely help you not commit this huge mistake. All right. And finally, the number one mistake, the one I think is the most egregious and the one that I committed the worst of and set me back weeks, maybe even months on my account, is what I'd like to call dirtling. Now, dirtling is hard to quantify, but realistically what it means is that you are not focused on progressing your champions. And what do I mean by that? So we're looking at the free to play, right? And right now, if we look at my champions, I don't have a lot, right? So, you know, I've got Kale, Alice, Vergus, right? These three I've kind of decided are going to be the first three that I get up to 60. And then High Katoon, when I get her at 30 days, will probably be the fourth. Bellower will come up to 50 and then maybe 60. And that'll be my 5-man squad for dungeons. And then from there, I'll kind of piece in other champions as I need them, right? If I need to bring up, say, an Armiger for Ice Golem, or I need to bring up Wukong because I'm stuck in PvP, that's something to consider. Now, dirtling, and the problem with dirtling is that it actually will affect you in a moment where you're feeling the best. And the reason is because usually dirtling starts when you begin pulling lots of champions at one time. This is what hurt me on my main account, because on my main account, I'm not free to play. And I was buying shards. And I would buy, a pack string, and I would pull, 100, 200 void shards in a day. And now I've got access to all these champions. And I would, I'd look up a guide and, oh, Demitha is great for clan boss, blah, 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 and I'd get her to level 50. But the problem is the hurdle from 50 to 60 is exponentially higher than it is anywhere else. Getting from 20 to 30, no problem. 30 to 40, easy. Even 40 to 50, great. But the power comes when you've hit level 60 and you've gotten the masteries for that champion. That is when the champion is at their most efficient, and books as well. So the problem is you start getting all these champions in and you're looking around, you're like, oh, this guy looks cool. Bring him up to 50, try him out. He has no chance in completing the task you've set aside from him, but he inevitably fails and you're like, whatever, throw him in the vault, grab the next one, right? I had this problem a lot on my account because I pulled a lot of things really early, and it was kind of like being at a buffet. Oh, I want a little bit of this and put that on my plate. Ooh, I want a little bit of that and put that on my plate. Next thing you know, I have a bunch of champions built to 50. None of them are running at maximum efficiency. And I'm still just, oh, this guy looks cool. This guy looks cool. And the worst part is I'm not even obviously going to feed any of them later on because they are good champions once they've been invested in. So dirtling is the idea of you're not investing into a champion fully. You're spreading your investment out too wide. And that really will set your account back weeks and months, because you still have to spend the time leveling them, getting food for them, and all that food that went into getting 7 or 8 50s could have been instead put into getting one person to 60, getting them masteries, and getting them booked out so that they are running at 100% efficiency. This is especially worse with legendaries, because when you pull a legendary, your brain goes, oh, well, I want to invest in this legendary. And the problem is, investing in legendaries, I mean, I have 3 legendary books here, right? That won't even fully book Alice. And then I have Wukong. So, I go, okay, I'm going to put these 3 books into Alice and I'm going to play around with her for a bit. And then I get bored. I get a couple extra legendary books and I start putting them into Wukong. And now next thing you know, I have 2 legendaries half built that are weaker than if I had just focused in on making one champion as good as I possibly could. And this is, in my opinion, the biggest mistake that will hold your account back. And this can happen to anybody. In fact, it's actually probably more prevalent happening to paid players, because you pay and then you have a sudden influx of champions. They all look really cool and you start investing a little bit into all of them. And then next thing you know, you have 50 half-built, basically useless legendaries, when you could have had 1 or 2 fully built, maximized legendaries that you could use to help progress your account. Ooh, man, I know I really hammered down on that one, but that is the biggest mistake that I made that I don't want to see other players make, because that one will hurt you the most. Anyway, that's been all from me, guys. I hope these 5 mistakes were helpful. I hope that they weren't, kind of run on things you've already heard before. I know like a lot of people talk about not maxing your energy and stuff like that, but the big one with, dirtling around, I actually don't hear a lot of people talk about in a lot of their videos. So I thought maybe, you know, from a mid-game player's perspective, that some of this advice, you know, could help you out progress faster. So if you liked the video, go ahead and drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Do you think I hit the nail on the head? Do you think there's mistakes that are more egregious that I'd missed? Subscribe if you really feel like it, and I would deeply appreciate any of that cool YouTube stuff happening. And I will see you guys next time.